Buying an upgrade for your tower should always make it stronger, right? Well, usually the answer is yes. Even if the upgrade doesn't make your tower directly stronger, it'll do something like allowing it to pop camo balloons instead. However, there are a couple of notable exceptions to this rule. By far the biggest one being the plasma vision upgrade that you buy for your super monkey as a tier 2. But how can that possibly be worse? I mean, this upgrade literally gives our super monkey a higher rate of fire and extra pierce compared to the tier 1 laser vision before it. But you see, specifically in this version of Bloons Tower Defense 5, that being the Steam and mobile ports of the game, the laser vision counts as 2 projectiles while the plasma only counts as 1. If you look at the plasma vision's artwork, it really would make sense for it to count as 3 projectiles instead, but for whatever reason, NK made that specific change to the laser vision here, and this allows it to deal overall a higher total damage per second than what the plasma does. And this is really evident when we test them both against the BFB, with the 1-2 laser vision getting a total of 911 pops, while a 2-2 plasma vision only gets 703 pops from the same exact spot, which we can determine by simply subtracting the 911 pops of the laser monkey from the total that we now have. And one other tower that I would argue gets worse when you upgrade it is the helicopter, although this is more debatable. But with the pursuit mode, which you get from buying the tier 2 upgrade on the left path, you get a targeting option that generally performs worse against the balloons than your own control would, but a lot of people still prefer to use pursuit simply because it is easier regardless. Now, you know how a village is usually used to make other towers within its range better? Well, these buffs can also be applied to the road items as well. You see, if I place a pile of road spikes within the range of this MIB village, all of a sudden, it can pop lead balloons. Although it did use all 10 of its damage at once, just to pop a single lead layer, so if you want a funny way to lose all your money fast, I guess here it is. But also, check this out. A spike pile within the range of the MIB can entirely pop a black balloon and everything that spawns from it, but outside the range, it leaves one red balloon behind. And that's because the Pierce upgrade from the village also counts as 1 extra damage for the spike pile to deal. And finally, the Call to Arms ability, which, amongst other things, will double the Pierce to towers within its range, and can also be applied to spike piles as well by simply activating the ability first, and then placing down your pile before it ends. And now, you have a pile of road spikes that is actually profitable to use, as it can deal a total of 22 damage, which actually remains true even when the Call to Arms ability has already ended. And it's also worth pointing out that the popping power monkey knowledge specifically gives your towers a certain percent chance of having double pierce on each shot, which can be maxed out at 40%. And as you probably guessed, this also counts for road items, meaning that with this monkey knowledge enabled, you have a pretty solid chance of building the ultimate pile of road spikes, capable of dealing a staggering 44 damage. And speaking of weird interactions with the village, here's another one that you might find a bit more useful. You see, all it takes is a simple 0-1 village with the pierce that you get from its monkey fort upgrade to make the Hydra rocket pods upgrade on the Darling Gunner quite a bit more powerful than it normally would be. And I believe that instead of the pierce of each explosion getting 1 added to it, each explosion is simply doubled instead, making quite a noticeable difference in how long that a 2-3 Darling Gunner could last against these ceramics with a 0-1 village versus just how long that they lasted when I didn't have one. But that isn't the only weird interaction that this game has surrounding explosive projectiles, because as it turns out, when an explosion deals more than 1 damage per shot, it seems to have weird rules around how it acts with the amount of money that you earn from popping the balloons. As in, from what I can tell at least, the normal reduction to income generation simply gets ignored. And by all measures, I have to assume this to be a glitch, but it's already a little bit noticeable in round 51, which is the first round where your income from the balloons gets cut down from its standard rate of 1-to-1, because if I use a normal defense to beat this round, you can see that I went up from $8,959 up to $10,482 for a total gain of $1,523. But if I were to, I don't know, get a couple of 0-4 aces and use their ground 0 abilities to destroy as many of the balloons as I can, all of a sudden I'm able to earn $1,554, which is obviously quite a minuscule gain, but the further that you go into free play and the more damage you're able to deal, the more noticeable that this will really start to become. Probably the craziest instance that I can think of is this recent video that I made where I had a 04 submarine being bought and sold over and over in order to use its first strike missile, and despite losing a bit of money each time it was sold, the amount that I was profiting from this was simply unprecedented. Now, a much less obscure way to make extra money is by simply purchasing the double cash premium upgrade, which of course gives you double the normal amount of money from popping balloons, along with every other income source in the game as well. And honestly, this will make even the toughest of challenges in BTD 5, such as beating tar pits, which is arguably the hardest map in any BTD game ever, while also playing on the highest difficulty possible, turn into an absolute cakewalk. But what you might not know is that on the mobile version of BTD 5, double cash costs $9.99 USD, whereas on the Steam version, it only costs monkey money to purchase this upgrade instead. And that's actually true for every premium upgrade, with the exception of tower skins, which will cost real money on Steam as well. But I find this very strange because, realistically speaking, it's not like Steam itself has rules that prohibit games from including purchases that make the gameplay experience easier. Like, the Steam version of BTD 6 still charges you actual money for double cash, but for some reason, on the Steam version of BTD 5 specifically, the only things that you can buy with real money are custom tower skins that have no actual effect on the real gameplay. And here's something that's pretty insignificant, but I still find it interesting, and that's the fact that if you use fast track mode to skip the first 25 rounds, you'll of course be immediately starting on round 26. But the interesting thing is that you can then quit out of the game, load back in, and all of a sudden, you're now able to begin on round 27 without ever having beaten round 26 at all. But rest assured, this does not continue working more than once, and I believe what's actually happening here is probably quite simple. If I were to be playing a normal game, and let's say I quit out in, I don't know, the middle of round 8, once I load back into that game, it will then say round 7 at the bottom until I hit start, where the game then knows to add 1 to the current round number and begin me there on round 8. But when you use fast track mode, the game immediately says 26 at the bottom and then starts you on that round instead. So I think by quitting out and loading back in, the game now believes that it should add 1 to your current round just like it normally would, allowing you to then pass on to round 27. And this also works on game modes like Deflation, where your game begins on round 30, you can simply quit out and then start the game on round 31 instead. Now, I'm sure everybody remembers the Bloon Chipper. It's that broken tower from BTD 5, which makes the gameplay look absolutely ridiculous. And it's really the only tower that never ended up actually making it over to BTD 6 either. Some people would argue that the Mermonkey has sort of replaced the Bloon Chipper's functionality, but it's no secret that you can literally find a destroyed version of the Bloon Chipper on the BTD 6 map scrapyard, which heavily implies that it's now sort of a relic of the past. But something that I think not as many people know is the fact that Ninja Kiwi actually specifically answered a question about the Bloon Chipper back in August of 2020, stating that the Bloon Chipper is only really seen as a mistake due to the way that it ended up being balanced. It's a very hard tower to balance well and still be fun to play, and there are some regrets about adding it into the Blooniverse. And personally, I never knew that the BTD world was called a Blooniverse, but I will say that this really goes to show just how much different the Bloon Chipper is from the other towers within Bloons Tower Defense, and I really don't think we should ever expect to see it making a return unless maybe Ninja Kiwi does so as some sort of Easter egg or something. And here's another fact about the Bloon Chipper. Obviously it's not in Bloons Tower Defense 6, but it's also not in the original Flash version of Bloons Tower Defense 5 either. However, that doesn't mean that it was originally added to the first mobile port of the game, released on iOS back in November of 2012, because in all actuality, the Bloon Chipper was originally added to BTD 5 Deluxe. And I kid you not, the video for this trailer was literally uploaded 5 hours ago and had 2 views, and I just happened to be lucky enough to find it because before that, there was no high quality footage available of this. And it goes without saying that BTD 5 Deluxe is now a relatively obscure Flash version of the game that originally came out back in August 15th of 2012. Now, from what I can tell, the Bloon Chipper wasn't immediately available in this game, but just 2 weeks after the game was released, on August 31st of 2012, none other than the BTD legend himself, SJB, would release this video showcasing both the Bloon Chipper and Engineer as new towers in the game. And arguably the craziest part of all of this is the fact that SJB was already saying that the Bloon Chipper seemed really broken for the fact that it could destroy Moab so easily, which obviously Ninja Kiwi ended up agreeing with. Something else that I find really interesting is despite having such a broken tower in it, BTD5 Deluxe actually hard capped free play at round 500, which is arguably why this is the first version of BTD5 ever that someone was able to get to that round, with this footage being from November of 2012, over a full year before Big Cube Fan would achieve the same thing in regular BTD5. And at the same time, nobody could use BTD5 Deluxe to push the record any further than this, since this is where the game simply tapped you out. And with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, I would really love to know what interesting facts you would love to see in the next iteration, and if this gets to, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 likes, I'll definitely make a part 2 that's actually 20 minutes long in order to double up our time.